Good afternoon, everybody. It's June 2nd, 2024. It's Sunday at 7:25 p.m. I received an email from one of our very long-term, unfortunately, targeted person. He's been targeted for a very long time. Actually, I think he's in his 80s now. So I'm on his mailing list, and there's a discussion that has surfaced about V2K, voice to skull. So he initiated this conversation, and he said, "Dear friends, we know that our attackers employ two types of V2K on us." And I'll discuss the two types of V2Ks, but this is Lorraine Alternative Homesteading. Please remember to hit the thumbs up. Welcome newcomers and welcome those back to my channel. So there are two types of V2K that the criminals, the attackers, utilize. First one is that which is readily heard by the ears and brain, and two, messages sent over a signal that is either too high or too low for the ears and brain to pick up, but instead go into the victim's subconscious. He calls this later V2K the silent V2K. If you want to know whether or not you're receiving those silent messages, there are various ways to detect them. Inserting your fingers deeply into your ear canal and rubbing the sides, sliding a china cup quickly over a ceramic countertop, and rubbing the hair stubs at the entrance of your ears. Well, that is if you have hair stubs, okay? So I guess that we all have little teeny weeny hairs in there. Last night, he says, while lying in bed, I discovered still another way of detecting the hidden messages. Wearing earplugs with a closed mouth, I inhaled and exhaled very strongly and quickly through my nose. The friction picked up the silent message, quote unquote, "You want me." That message is all inclusive. It may apply to food, tobacco, liquor, sex, or just about anything else that in excess or used the wrong way could harm your health. The messages will be very short and will be continual, as in a loop play tape. You may have to repeat the method for hearing them several times. They sometimes will not be heard the first time. You may also pick up only one word. By continuing to probe, you'll finally be able to discern the entire message. That you don't hear the V2K doesn't mean that you're not receiving silent messages. He says, I know that I was getting the silent V2K for many, many years before the attackers started using the regular V2K. I would encourage you to use a method for learning to hear the silent messages, for they are far more dangerous than the easily heard voice to skull. And then he adds, I might add that any type of friction, for instance, motors, fans, traffic on the road, will pick up the regular V2K that isn't under everyday conditions or easily heard. However, it will be the usual, senseless, probably AI-generated crap, which is only amplified by the friction. The quote-unquote silent V2K, on the other hand, will always be very short messages, not the usual diatribes and junk talking that we hear from the goons. He calls them goons, I call them criminals, right? So I think that was very astute, very interesting topic, and they have had the topic of V2K before. You know, a lot of people chime in about the types of conversations that they're assaulted with. You know, it's usually derogatory things, insults and stuff like that. Sometimes they'll use, he says that they use the voices of family members to insult him and stuff like that. So it is his theory Max, it is Max's theory that they employ two types of V2K on us. One is that which is readily heard by the ears or brain, or both. And two, the messages sent over the signal, the radio frequency. The frequencies are either too high or too low for the ears and or brain or both to pick them up, but instead go into the victim's subconscious. And he calls the latter the silent V2K. And then, of course, he offers a couple of methods for discerning or being able to hear it. And he says, if you want to know whether or not you're receiving those silent messages, there are various ways to detect them. Inserting your fingers deeply into your ear canal and rubbing the sides. Sliding a china cup quickly over a ceramic countertop and rubbing the hair stubs at the entrance of your ears. So he said that last night while lying in bed, he discovered another way of detecting the hidden messages by wearing earplugs with a closed mouth. He inhaled and then exhaled very strongly and quickly through his nose. The friction picked up by the silent message was, "You want me." So anyway, I find this to be really interesting because I know that I have very strong tinnitus. Like it actually disappeared. It was a very weak tinnitus when I lived in New Jersey. It was very weak. It would go on and off. Like you'd hear it come on and off, you know. You would think it was just I didn't know what to think it was, you know. It seemed to be synchronous with thinking about certain people, right? So then it was more continuous, but very, very low. You know, very, very low. Wouldn't hear it like when the room is quiet. And it actually, I remember being en route from when I was moving from New Jersey to Kentucky, and I remember having to sleep in, you know, the big RV that we rented. And I remember that was the first night in a long time that I had no tinnitus, zero. And that continued for a while. It actually continued when I moved to Kentucky and was living in my car. And then, of course, as soon as I moved into my house here, it started up again. And it's very loud. I think it creates a lot of fatigue. You know, just think about it. You've got noise in your ears 24/7 that shouldn't be there, and it has to cause fatigue. It's sort of like the noise campaigns that these stupid losers create for you, because noise is annoying. People who are construction workers sometimes have to wear earphones to block out the noise because it can harm their eardrums. So I look forward to your questions and comments. And does this make sense to you? Do you have another method for detecting these hidden messages? Do you believe that there's maybe a third type of V2K? So here's a silent one and the one that you hear with your ears and brain. Anyway, this is Lorraine Alternative Homesteading. If you enjoyed this, please remember to like, comment, and share. And I look forward to your questions and comments down below.